by a minute to make sure that we've got everything working correctly.
I'm going to go ahead and admit all here.
And will you just let me know, Harrison, when that is completed?
Yes, sir. Folks are coming in now, sir. Being admitted.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jim and Becky and Ashley.
Good morning.
Here's Greg Cronin here.
And we need to make sure, put me on mute.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I think we're in the process of admitting everyone to make sure that we all have good communications and that everything is working correctly. So we'll just take one moment here to make sure that the YouTube channel is working correctly. The present, in the room as well.
Yes, sir. Chairman, this is Harrison with the MDA. The folks listed as presenters in the meeting are myself, colleague Alex Williams, all the members of the board here are here, and then Blair Hurst, who's the screen that we see Jamie on. And then, Mr. Chairman, we have 28 attendees. For instance, I see Alan Snelling and Lee Bond, Mayor McDermott. I see those folks here on the meeting, but they are currently only attending, which means that they'll not be allowed to speak unless we allow them to. And so that's just kind of an update on that, sir.
Okay, so the way we'll begin here, I'll give a very quick introduction. We will handle the very brief business that we have to handle before we begin the presentations, and we will go through the presentations in the order that the applications were actually received. Let me just welcome all of you to the meeting this morning. There are many of you that are attending through the Microsoft Teams software. There are probably a number of others that are watching through the live stream on YouTube this morning. We did have a little bit of an issue with the volume or the sound on the YouTube last meeting. So if for some reason you're not either seeing the meeting or hearing it correctly, please just put a comment in that comment box there on the YouTube channel. It is being monitored in real time, and we'll make sure we get that taken care of immediately. My name is Ashley Edwards. I chair this advisory board. Let me also introduce our other members. We have Moses Fegan with Mississippi Power Company. We have Mark Humbust. We have Jerry Levins, who is going to be joining us a bit late. We have Mr. Greg Cronin. We have Mr. Jim Simpson and Miss Becky Jenner, all members of the advisory board, and Jamie Miller, Deputy Director of MDA. And Jamie, you might want to introduce the MDA team that you guys have present there at your office as well.
Thank you, Ashley. We have several members of our team here operating our technology, also taking minutes, and also will be helping with the presentations. We've got Melissa Scallon, Blair Hurst, Sarah Wright from our Grants and Financial Services Office, Harrison Matheny, and then our IT staffs here as well supporting.
Thank you, Jamie. Let me just take a moment to say, I hate the circumstances that we find ourselves in today, understanding that we had quite an impact from Hurricane Zeta last Wednesday. I hope that all of you are doing well and are well on your way to being able to recover any damage that you had. Understand that there could be some technical limitations with electricity and Wi-Fi and other things. But if we need to come back and have additional meeting time, we certainly will be willing to do that to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity. Basically, what we're doing today is this is a continuation of a process that we began a couple of months back. The advisory board for the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund was written into statute in 2008 in the special session in the legislation that created the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund. It called to have an advisory board who would vet the projects and ultimately make recommendations back to the Mississippi Development Authority and to the Mississippi Legislature. The Mississippi Legislature makes all of the funding decisions and appropriations concerning the applications that were submitted. So this is step one in a two-step process by which we take time to vet the 79 applications that were submitted this year, to go through the full project applications, the financials, to understand the scope of the project, the business case for the project, potential return on investment, and so forth. In the preceding meetings, the members of the advisory board have talked through all of the projects that are submitted, and we have taken preliminary votes to narrow down a list. And today, we've narrowed down the list to 15 projects that had enough support from the advisory board members to continue moving forward in the process. However, no projects have yet been eliminated from the process. But last year, we did not have a formalized presentation from the applicants, and we felt it would be a good idea and would help us in our attempt to make sure that we thoroughly vet all the projects before we make our recommendations. To have applicants come and spend a few minutes talking about the projects and answering any questions that members of the advisory board have. So we certainly appreciate all your time today. We know that this is a bit of a burdensome process for you to have to come and do this remotely, as we have all done countless times this year with the pandemic, because of our inability to find meeting space in which everyone can be separated the way that the governor's orders allow. So again, please bear with us as we're having to do this in a new way, but we appreciate your patience and we appreciate your attendance very much. The advisory board has worked very hard. We have a great team of dedicated people here who really care about these projects, who really want to understand them. And I think you will find that in the questions that we asked today. So with that being said, let me go ahead and move into our agenda for the day. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 20th meeting. Those minutes were sent out immediately after the 20th meeting, and they demonstrated the votes, the preliminary votes that we took on keeping projects in the system and the ones that we were inviting for presentations. You should have all received that. So let me just ask if we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Hear a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Ms. Jenner, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none. Let me just take 1 minute and move off the agenda here and just ask if any members of the advisory board have anything that they would like to say before we begin the applicant presentations. All right, hearing none, we will go ahead and move into the applicant presentations. And again, we're going to move through these in the order that they were actually submitted into the MDA. So the first presentation that we have, or the first project we have for consideration, I know some of these will not have presentations associated with them, but it's the City of Biloxi Pops Ferry Road Extension Project Phase 1. They've requested $9.6 million in GCRF funds, and the total project cost is $12 million. The project received a score of 18 out of a possible 45 points through the MDA scoring of the project. So do we have a presentation for the City of Biloxi? And MDA, let me just double check. Did someone RSVP to present from Biloxi?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see Mike Leonard or anyone from Biloxi on the call, I don't believe. Could someone, if you are from Biloxi, put something in the chat box to let us know?
Do they have power, Moses? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, we will we'll move on and we'll come back to that one if they happen to if they do happen to come into the meeting. Our second project is the City of Loosedale Ventura Drive Improvement Project. They requested $577,200 in GCRF funds. The total project cost is $721,500. The project received a score of 14 out of a possible 45 points through the MDA scoring. Do we have someone with the City of Loosedale to present?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone from Loosedale here. If you are from Loosedale, would like to present, we're welcome some message in the chat box.
Give that one moment here and see if anyone speaks up. All right, hearing none, if they happen to arrive into the meeting, we will go back to that one. Okay, the next project on the list is the City of Pass Christian Downtown Redevelopment Initiative. The total Gulf Coast Restoration Funds requested are $5.4 million of a total project cost of $6.48 million, and the project received a score of 15 points out of a possible 45 through the MDA scoring process. I do believe I see the mayor there, so I think we do have a presenter for this one.
Mayor McDermott, I've made you a presenter in the meeting here, and so you should be able to speak and we should be able to hear you. I'm about to share my screen, which we have a PDF from Past Christian. If you'd like for me to do that as you speak, or you just instruct me as you wish.
Mayor, I think you may be muted. You may have to turn your mute off there.
We good now?
We got you loud and clear.
All right, so appreciate y'all having us here. We are all scrambling from this hurricane. Now, this town's 300 and whatever, about 20 minutes younger than Biloxi is, and 6.5 miles long and about 1.5 miles deep. And the first phase that we did, even though you want to hit us, the highest elevated land in this town is Scenic Drive. It's also the highest priced property on the coast. So I coined a phrase after Katrina: if the water got us in this mess, and water's the only thing going to get us out. So if you build up on that area, then you can have some economic development there. Land is for sale up there. In the first phase, we got $750,000, and right now $1.675 million under contract on where we want to spend that at, with the estimate of spending about $5 million. So we're asking for $5.4 million on this one, and we would contribute $1,080,000 for this phase 2, which would allow us to build on that area up there on Scenic Drive, which is the highest elevated, which overlooks the smallest town on the coast with about 6,000 people. That's 15,000 cars a day riding by on Highway 90. So that increases our population from its natural state to 15,000 more a day at least. So that's what we're asking for, is to get that money to get a private investors to go in there and to develop that land. We would not ask you to buy the land. We're talking about going in and use that money to do infrastructure and all that, which would allow it to be more conducive to somebody. And we do have people that would go in there are ready to go. We get our supply from New Orleans. We don't have to go looking for them around here. And they're ready to go in there if we can make it conducive for them to want to go in there and develop that land right in that area, which the original settlers did in 1848, built up there on that area. And they also had mixed use before anybody knew what that was. So if we can develop that land right up in there, which is the highest elevated, the most protective, and you can build on grade, we have something there that the rest of the people do not have. We wanted to acquire a larger property. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. That property up there, there's some of them, just to give you example one, there is about 4 acres of the Catholic Church is owned for 200 years, has been off the tax roll. If we can go up there and get the land and divide it, then we can get people coming there rather than have to buy the whole section. Also on that Scenic Drive, you got the south side of it, which, and then you had the north side, where for years until Camille was separately owned by 2 different people. Now it's mostly owned by one owner, owns both the north and the south side. And if you can build there where you're overlooking the highway, like we tell you, and we can split that land up, then we got developers to go in there right now and build stuff. And you take Bay St. Louis over there, all the stuff they have, you get a block off the bay. There's not a whole lot going on. And the good people from Biloxi have tried everything in the world down at View Marche. They want to go to the water, and that's where we need to build it at. But not only do we want to go there, it's the highest elevated land in this town, and you can build on grade right there. So that's our presentation at this point. If you need something else, though, I can sure come up with the answer.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's good to see you, and thank you for taking your time to come and talk with us this morning. Let me just ask if any of the members of the advisory board have any questions for Mayor McDermott.
Let me just add one more thing, and you know this as good as anybody, you the man. We don't have one harbor. We have 2 harbors. So that strip of land up there covers both of those, and it overlooks both of them, and it gets some protection from the upper, unless you have a Katrina, which at that point you throw everything out. But we overlooking 2 harbors on the highest elevated land you can build on grade.
Any questions for the mayor?
Yeah, I got one quick question, Ashley. This is Moses. So in this application, it says that you're gonna go from 0 to 45 full-time employees. Where are those employees going to be employed? Is that city employees or is that anticipation of businesses coming in?
Business is coming in. Yes,
Okay.
business is coming in. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any others?
I have one, Chipper. Since Katrina, how many businesses were on Scenic after Katrina and how many are on now?
But right now, though, the businesses on there are, you've got Bacchus, which is expanded, other things. You got a hotel on there you never had in the last 70 years. You got a hotel that's just off of Scenic on Davis Avenue. So we have 2 hotels the first time for 70 years. You've got mixed use up on the between just west of Davis Avenue, where we have businesses up there. There's 4 new businesses that I know of, plus the upstairs that have the apartments. One has 7, the other one has 2. And now, if you really want to go back to it, you go back to Camille when we had 2 drugstores. We had a General Electrics, we had a dentist's office, we had all that going on before Camille. And then after Camille, there wasn't any restrictions on it. People made their money back in the old days when they were being through a long time through over their lifetimes, and some of those older people just decided not to build back. But that land right now will go if we can make it attractive to somebody. Those apartments in there we have that they building down there, you know, those apartments are very expensive and they're all full because we're not drawing from local people. These people come from all over, especially in the bigger cities, and they don't bat an eye at paying $2,000 a month rent up there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, Mayor, thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our next project is the George County Board of Supervisors. They are the applicant. The project is the George County Industrial Park Main Entrance Road Project. They've requested $842,700 in GCRF funds. The total funding on the project is $1.25 million. The project scored a 10 out of a possible 45 points through the MDA scoring. So we have anyone with George County here with us today? Anyone?
My list, sir, does not show anyone having RSVP to present from George County, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Harrison. Okay, we move on to our next project. Our next project is the Gulfport Town Center LLC Gulfport Town Center project. They've requested $29.975 million in GCRF funds. The total project cost is $59.951 million. Project received a score of 10 out of a possible 45 points through the MDA scoring. Do we have someone with Gulfport Town Center LLC today?
Hunter Lipscomb, I'm making you a presenter. I also see Mr. Stuart Speed here. Are there any other presenters from this project, Hunter? I've taken you off mute. Can you answer that question?
On the first line.
Hey, Harrison. Good morning. Thank you for that. Stuart Speed is going to be the lead presenter, and Roy Anderson is also on the call. Thank you.
All right, great. Stuart, I'm going to go ahead, Mr. Speed, and begin sharing the screen here. I have a 3-slide PDF from your team, and just let me know if you'd like for me to navigate around, sir.
I will do. Thank you, Harrison. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. If you could go back to the first slide. I think that's the third of 3. Go back to the cover page. Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you. So good morning, everyone. I'm Stuart Speed with Leaf River Group. On behalf of Gulfport Town Center, I want to thank the advisory board and MDA for the opportunity to make this brief presentation. If you would flip to the next slide. Harrison, flip to the next one. Yeah. So this is our project location right on Highway 90 Beach Boulevard at Highway 49 across from the port. It's a vacant lot, serves as surface parking right now. And by the way, let me say that our project request is for just shy of 30 million in 1 year, or just shy of 15 million each in 2 years. So 2021 and 2022, if we break it up. But this is a 2-year construction process, and so we could do it over 2 years. You can flip to the next slide, please. All right, this is our rendering of our actual project that we propose to build. This is we've been through the conceptual design phase with our architect, Niles Bolton Associates out of Atlanta. So now I'll tell you about the project. In today's knowledge economy, coastal Mississippi is losing the national competition for attracting skilled workers and young professionals. These are not my words, but the 2018 findings of TIP strategies and a year-long study commissioned by the Gulf Coast Business Council and Gulf Coast Community Foundation. The study goes on to say coastal Mississippi is not currently a competitive destination for talent. Tech workers, entrepreneurs, and other skilled individuals are moving away from Mississippi and living in other regions like Nashville, Austin, Atlanta, etc. Even smaller cities like Huntsville, Pensacola, Asheville, North Carolina, Chattanooga, Tennessee are also thriving. Mississippi's total population change is stagnant, with only 5,600 people net migrating to the past 10 years. Meanwhile, Louisiana and Alabama each grew by over 100,000 during the same time period. One key factor in this discrepancy is quality of place. What is these communities' secret ingredient in attracting and keeping talent and capital? The answer, according to TIP strategies, is urban residential and mixed-use development. The coast needs to stimulate new high-density residential and mixed-use development across the region's downtowns. In the study, TIP specifically recommends that the coast invest in underutilized parcels in Gulfport and coastal downtowns to develop Class A residential, retail, and office space. So what we are proposing is not just another development, but an investment framework to address a public policy problem, which is attracting talent and capital. Gulfport Town Center is a $60 million Class A+ urban mixed-use development. It would consist of 252 luxury apartments, a 600+ car public-private parking garage, 14,000 feet of retail space, and 30,000 feet of office space in a second phase. The project is estimated to bring 350 to 400 new residents to downtown Gulfport, benefiting local restaurants and other businesses. We wish to leverage $30 million in private capital investment, a significant private sector investment in the coast. The town center will be locally owned, managed, and constructed by a proven team. This represents a true commitment to our community. I can speak firsthand to the success of these developments. I've served as the developer for Meridian at the port in downtown Mobile and Meridian at Fondren in Jackson across MC, among other mixed-use and residential projects. What are the expected impacts of the Gulfport Town Center project? A similar development was recently completed in Pensacola's downtown, known as the Southtown development. It is credited with bringing hundreds of families and citizens a more affordable way of living downtown. Downtown Pensacola is now seeing increases in new restaurants and businesses thriving. In only 8 months, all 258 residential units and street-level retail space were leased. According to our economic impact analysis performed by the Innovation Group, there's often a snowball and copycat effect to developments of this magnitude, creating more residential and mixed-use development and other secondary impacts. We believe our project is complementary to other ongoing developments in Gulfport, including major undertakings in the blue economy, and complementary to Gulfport's existing anchors' efforts to attract and retain world-class talent. According to the Innovation Group, on an ongoing basis, the project is estimated to support 136 jobs, contribute 4.1 million in labor income, and produce 10.3 million in annual added value to Harrison County and Mississippi's economy. The total annual fiscal impact on the state and local community would be approximately 1.1 million annually. This is new tax revenue to the bottom line. In addition, the fiscal impact of construction will generate 1.8 million in one-time tax revenue for the state and local government. Currently, the rental market, local rental market, cannot sustain the approximate $2 per square foot residential rental rates that a project of this quality requires. The local rental market average is closer to $1 a square foot. The net project cost must be substantially reduced in order to make the project feasible. We're trying to accommodate median household incomes in the range of $50,000 to $60,000 annually. As you all weigh the various projects that have been submitted, we ask that you consider the total picture of what will make the coast competitive long term. We submit that, as TIP strategies recommended, enhancing quality of place in order to compete for talent and capital is the right investment for the future of the coast. We, the private sector, are leading the way to answer a public policy need. We are asking for your endorsement to make this transformational project a reality for the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Thank you. That concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know Roy Anderson also had a couple of comments he wanted to offer as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speed. Mr. Anderson, you with us? Mr. Anderson, I think you may still be on mute. You may want to just hit your mute button there on the screen. Should be right in front of, should be right on your control panel on the screen there. Looks like a little microphone.
Can you hear me now, Ashley? I'm sorry.
Yes, we got you. Thank you.
I was trying to be a good guy, being quiet during this whole thing. Appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity, the committee and Ashley, and also to say the following, that, you know, since we've been in the portal, I think it was August the 28th, I've kind of had some unsolicited comments that, you know, wow, this would be great for Gulfport, be great for the entire Gulf Coast, be great. Hopefully it's a model that it would work in other cities, and I really feel like it, that if it's successful, it could be a model that could increase the quality of life and address that need that was talked about in the TIP strategies report. The only, and I wouldn't say it's a negative, it's just a comment that there might be a hangover, quote and unquote, up in Jackson because of, you know, the aquarium. There's a perception there's been a big ask and receipt to make the aquarium, in addition to all the private funding. I want to just clarify this. The only thing Gulfport has to do with this project is the location. This is a pure private-public partnership, very similar to the way projects in Austin are developed in Nashville. The differences are that they, instead of leveraging that, you know, they obviously don't have the BP money, but what they do is reach out to UT in Austin and also Vanderbilt in Nashville, and also their medical centers. And so while it's not exactly the same, it is still a private development, which we're going to sign. Obviously, you know what the financing criteria would be for a construction loan. It would be a personal guarantee for over $30 million, and then it'd be a match by the public funding. So it's not exactly the same as in Nashville, Austin. It's the same framework, but different types of money. The other thing that Brandon Mitchell Alexander sent me the other day was the traffic count at 49 at this intersection is 15,000 cars, and Highway 90 is 28,000. This is per day. And again, the TIP strategies really like this location, but also they feel like a summer type project could be in Biloxi, Bay St. Louis, Jackson County. So we're hoping this could be the poster child for something really, really nice to happen. But, you know, it always has to be the first of everything. And I believe it'll be very well received. But we really do need to address the millennials leaving our state, be able to keep our children and grandchildren and with a quality of life perspective here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But that's all I have to say, and I appreciate your time. I just want to point out those points.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Glad to have you. Let me just ask if any members of the advisory board have any questions.
Yeah, I do actually have a couple.
Okay,
guys, thank you for your presentation. Let me say this first of all, before I ask my questions. I'm gonna vote for this project. I am for it. I think it could be transformational. I think it addresses some of the needs in that report that we heard, that you mentioned from a year ago. I think it particularly focuses on some of those downtown needs. So I'm for the project. But with that said, I got to ask you a couple of questions. I've read in the materials it's a true public-private partnership and with Gulfport involved, but I don't see any. It talks about Gulfport's involvement in the parking lot. I don't see any Gulfport involvement other than people using it. Is Gulfport contributing any money at all or anything to the project?
Stuart, you want to answer that? Currently, Jim, they are not in the model that we're looking at. It's a public-private partnership they're not contributing money on the parking garage, but it addresses, from our standpoint, the lack of public parking. Because as you know, on any given weekend and city lights or whatever it might be, the restaurant half shell, rack house, they're totally utilizing that surface parking. So that goes away. But to answer your question, there could be, in fairness, it could be an opportunity to involve some type of bond issue on the parking garage. But quite frankly, it was suggested that we do not approach it from a city type request because of other cities making requests, and we want it to be a pure private developer and a request. Now, if we need to rethink that, if you feel like, Jim, it would increase the chances of the likelihood to make it more viable, we certainly have that opportunity because, in essence, we're building a parking garage for the city of Gulfport to address the lack of parking.
No, I'm not suggesting it's necessary at all, but some of the materials say that it's a public-private partnership with Gulfport, and in fact, it's not. It's a partnership with everybody in downtown Gulfport that's going to benefit from that parking. I think when you guys are selling this at the legislature, that's probably important for you to make that distinction, because when I see public-private partnership, I see the public being somehow involved other than just being a third-party benefit like every business downtown. So that's just a comment I have. Right. Next, it actually, is there anything, the materials say it's not multi-phase, but in fact the paperwork says it is 2 phases. The second phase is an office building. Is the office building, I know it's part of the sales material on here. What kind of project is that, or what's your timeline? Just very brief. I don't want details, just very, very brief.
Yeah, I can address that one. So the office building would be the only component that would be in a second phase, and it would be subject to market demand as to when we build that. And it's not part of the initial funding or anything.
Okay.
Jim, let me just say this on the parking, as far as that office building. We showed it as a second phase. It could be additional, another 100. I think the architect said we could build another 150 apartment units to 125 for that location. But we just put a different type of use in case there's, law office, legal firms or CPAs or even the port, if they have an interest in that. We had heard about 4 or 5 months ago that possibly the port was looking for some office space to own as opposed to lease. And so that could be an opportunity, but it's to be determined. We have total flexibility what we could do there. in that quote second phase.
My last question, again, and I am voting for this project because I think it's a great thing, but here's a question I have, and you're going to face this in the legislature, I'm sure. When I look at this, it looks like 50% of the investment in the project is going to be a grant, a gift from the state. The other 50% is all loan money. There's no private skin in the game. Now, I read the materials, and based on once you get 50% of the money, then you go for the construction loan, and depending on what the lender says, there may be some private money required. You may not borrow the other 50%. You may borrow some part of it. But people are going to ask this, I think. If you've got 50%,
Okay, well, my answer would be when you sign a note personally and severably for the entire amount, if there's 4 partners, 2 partners, or 3 partners, each partner's got to sign for the full amount. That'd be a $30 million personal recourse loan. That's just the way it'd be structured.
I understand that, but I don't know. I do real estate loans, and I don't know anybody that gets 100% loan anymore. I mean, there's no actual cash investment in this thing. So the actual equity investment is coming from the state, not any of the private partners, is what it looks like. But even so, let me finish. I know I read the materials. The materials do say when you go for that construction loan, when you go borrow the other half, they may not give you the other half. Some actual equity investment by those partners may be required. Here's what you're going to face, I think, in Jackson. Let's say of the other 30 million that does not come from the restoration fund. If you get 15 from the bank and you put 15 in, that's going to indicate to some people who are not as sophisticated as you guys a lack of confidence in the program. I mean, a bank will only lend you 25%. I mean, normal construction projects, they lend you much more than just 25%. And same thing for the investors. If you're only willing to put 25% in the game, is that a lack of confidence on your part, even though there's personal liability on the loan? I'm just saying. And maybe last point, I know we got to move on. What might help this deal in Jackson is if there is some true ownership, a true public-private partnership. Maybe some entity, I don't know which one, but some entity would have some ownership in the project in return for half of the construction cost, rather than just, if I were still in Jackson, I'd say, if the market down here is $1 a square foot and you're building something that's $2 a square foot, you're building something that nobody can afford. And if the only way people can afford it is with a government subsidy because we pay for half of it, that's not good public policy. That's going to be raised up there. That we all know how transformational it is and what a great project it is for downtown Gulfport. I guess maybe I'm just saying, just based on my experience and history, some of the questions that you're going to face, we're just endorsing the project here. We're not writing a check. When it comes to writing a check in Gulfport, in Jackson, think about some of these things. I guess that's all I've got to add.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got one quick question on the employment numbers. So on the application, it has that you are going from 0 to 10 full-time employees. So can you reconcile for us the employment numbers? Like say you say 10 on the application, but in your presentation you had 136. So what's the difference here?
Yeah, I can address that. So the 136 includes the secondary impacts, the induced economic benefit. So with 350 to 400 people living downtown, it would support those jobs in services, restaurants, various things. So that's all detailed in our economic impact analysis. So yeah, the 10 direct jobs, but then the total jobs that would be supported because you have this project in existence would be 136.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Speed, Mr. Anderson, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us on to the next project, which is the Gulfport Biloxi International Airport Project Ready Site Mitigation Program. The project requested $3.896 million out of a total project cost of $6.936 million. The project scored 24 points out of a possible 45 points in the MDA scoring. We saw Clay Williams earlier on the screen. Someone there to present.
Yes, sir. Is that Clay Williams there on the computer labeled meet?
I'm here.
Yes, mute him. Okay, thank you.
Clay, I believe I've made you a presenter, sir. I don't. Mr. Chairman, I don't see Clay Williams' name on the attendees list, but I believe he's here. And I'm not able to identify it unless he's there on the computer titled meeting, in which case he's on mute.
Let me just ask if anyone from the airport would just type into the chat box to identify. I think we had a hand go up there. Here.
Okay, then yes, and that is meeting, and I've made you a presenter, sir, with your hand raised, but your computer's on mute on your side. Let me see if I can unmute you myself, but I don't believe I can.
Harrison, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with your PowerPoint, sir.
Great. Well, thank you for your time this morning, members of the advisory committee. I really appreciate it. Sorry for that little technical glitch. Glad you can hear me now and hopefully see the screen with the slides that we have prepared. I want to thank you for your time and also thank you for your recommendation last year of this project. Appreciated that and appreciate you getting us to this stage in the process, and look forward to hopefully continue to advance through this effort and through this process. All of you are familiar with the Gulfport Biloxi International Airport, but to give you a brief overview, we're the second largest airport in the state of Mississippi. We saw nearly 800,000 total passengers through the airport last year. We've had good consecutive growth over the last 4 years at the airport. We've got 5 airlines currently operating. The airport authority has 1,600 acres of land under its purview, and we're a joint use facility, have very strong partnerships with both the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard, who are co-located here at the airport. You oftentimes hear our partners at the Mississippi Development Authority talk about how do we enhance our competitiveness and what can we do to make ourselves more viable to attract industry. In our case, how do we attract more aerospace and aviation related opportunities? MDA often talks about the 3 Ps. Those P's are people, policy, and product. If you look at South Mississippi, we've got good people. We've got a strong workforce for aviation and aerospace related projects. We have people that are retiring at Keesler Air Force Base, the Naval Construction Battalion, also the TASMG and the Air National Guard, CRTC. So you've got a built-in workforce for these types of initiatives. From a policy standpoint, the state of Mississippi has designated aerospace as a target industry for the state. The legislature has invested in aerospace-oriented incentives for Mississippi. And then from a product standpoint, and this is where I feel that this product, this property comes in, is we need more available sites. We often hear that from not only site selection consultants, but also from our development partners, whether they be from MDA, Harrison County Development Commission, or potentially Mississippi Power. So we feel like this initiative can help better ready a site. We've already done a great deal of due diligence on the site to get it ready for development and to enhance our competitive advantage. But there's another phase that needs to be undertaken. If you could, if it's possible to advance the slide to the next slide that we have, Harrison. Yeah, thank you. So again, as you'll see there on your screen, the site is located in red, and it's adjacent to a 9,002 foot runway. It's ideally located in the center of Gulfport. It's 2 miles from Interstate 10. It's 2 miles from the port of Gulfport. And for an aerospace related project, you've got easy access to the Gulf of Mexico flight testing range. Again, as mentioned, we've done a great deal of due diligence. We partnered with Mississippi Power and had the site certified project ready. We've done endangered species review, cultural resources assessment. We've done a number of geotechnical reports on the site. It has a 4-lane boulevard coming off of Highway 49 that accesses the property. Electric utilities are present, natural gas, also water and wastewater connections. If you could go to the next site, Harrison, please. So there it is, the entire 241 acres. You'll see it has direct access to the airfield. We would have taxi lane connectivity that would lead to the airport's taxiways and runway infrastructure. Next slide, please. And then we've been fortunate. The last piece of due diligence that needs to be undertaken is the mitigation of the wetlands on the site. We have obtained a 404 permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The airport authority obtained that back in August. And the site that you see there does have wetlands on it. A portion of it needs to be mitigated by purchasing wetlands mitigation credits, and then we can clear, grub, and fill the site. We want to do that within the allotted time frame that the Corps has granted us. So timing is really critical here, and we're hopeful that we're able to advance this effort. And we're seeking funding through the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund, but we really have almost matched dollar for dollar airport investment. If you look at the roadway that was constructed, you look at the parcels of land that have been acquired, along with the other necessary due diligence that's been conducted. So again, really appreciate your time today and appreciate your consideration in helping us to make this more of a competitive site. Again, really without an available site that's ready for development, we fall behind. We fall behind 12 to 18 months of bringing a project to market when we don't have the mitigation done in advance. We do have an opportunity to do this in this particular case and feel like it'd be an invaluable asset for South Mississippi. With that, members of the committee, Harrison, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Director. Appreciate you very much. Good to have you here. Let me just ask the members of the committee if there are any questions for Mr. Williams.
Clay, this is Greg Cronin. I think you and I had a conversation several months ago, and this project was presented last year. It wasn't funded. I think, just for clarification, I believe you, as in between the time of when it was approved and the funding from the legislature, something else took place, or you went a different direction in terms of a project that you needed to work on or something?
So yes, this project was recommended last year, and thank you again for that. And it was presented to the legislature when the coronavirus pandemic hit. This project was under consideration by members of both the House and the Senate in the state legislature, but there was an air service incentive program, which is managed and operated by the Mississippi Development Authority that helps benefit the generation and potential increase of future flight opportunities. That was really funded in, I would say, in lieu of this effort, because they saw the impact that the airline industry and airports across the United States were feeling from the coronavirus pandemic. So the legislature was very generous in funding that initiative, which had been set up a number of years prior. And so I think that actually ended up taking precedent over this particular initiative. And we talked to our legislative delegation partners and let them know that we would be resubmitting this year, and they encouraged us to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Clay,
Thank you. Go ahead, Becky.
Clay, how long has that parcel been project ready by Mississippi Power?
It's been about 3.5 years now that we worked on that effort. There were new sites that the power company certified, and then they did a recertification of some existing sites, and we were in that round. We worked with Jeanette Goldsmith, one of the site selection consultants with whom the company partnered on that effort.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Clay, thank you very much for being here today, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our next project. It is applicant is Guthrie Pellets Incorporated. The project is the Piney Wood Pellet Mill Reactivation Project. They requested $9.968 million in funding. The total project cost is $12.534 million, and the project scored 20 points out of a possible 45 through the MBA scoring. Do we have anyone with Guthrie Pellets here to speak today?
Mr. Chairman, I have Alan Snelling and Randall Guthrie on two different lines. I made both of them presenters. If they'd like to take themselves off of mute, they should be able to present as I click through their PDF, sir.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Snelling, Mr. Guthrie, you should be able to speak now. Hopefully we can hear you. I think you may still be muted. You may have to click the little microphone icon there on your screen.
How's that?
Feedback there. You may want to mute one line and have the other one closed. That may help. Okay, that may work. That may work now.
How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you. We can hear you fine.
Oh, great. Well, thanks very much. Would like to say hello to the advisory board members. I'm Alan Snelling. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Guthrie Pellets, and I've got Randall Guthrie, our president, here with us today. We appreciate very much your time and your consideration. We're applying for just under $10 million to reactivate an old wood pellet mill that was operated by Enviva a few years ago. Just a little background on the Guthrie family. Had been in the Stone County area since 1948. Absolute leaders in the community and in the forestry business. You know, you can, part of your due diligence will probably include background checks, and I'm sure that your feedback will be that they are absolutely trustworthy and capable. We've got a team from a standpoint of execution. We've got 150 years of cumulative, successful professional experience in forestry, wood pellet mill, construction and operation, and finance and investment management. And from a standpoint of where I would think the intent of the Gulf Coast Recovery Fund is, I mean, Stone County is above average in unemployment and poverty. It's below average in income. Right now, they're experiencing a severe glut of timber. the use of this pellet mill would be very appropriate. But if we're awarded the grant, within 22 months, we can create 88 jobs and be generating $19 million a year in primary revenue. Okay, if you give us just 2 times the spend for respending secondarily in the community on a $10 million investment, your ROI is that over a 20-year period will generate over $1 billion in taxable revenue. These are breadwinner jobs. Some of the priorities in our application, which we spoke to, I mean, there are many of them, but when we need to take a look at the, you can page to the next slide. Okay. Wood pellet mill, this is on an international basis. Wood pellet demand is growing at 8% year over year. I mean, some estimates run as high as 13. On the supply side of that, Mississippi overall, I mean, the stats are almost identical for that in Stone County. The trees are growing at over 8% a year, and the extraction rate is under 3%. And so you've got these are large numbers, and when you've got this, these are large growth numbers. And so we've got this overabundance of supply of forest products. And we can actually convert that into a real competitive advantage. We combine that, we've got a work-ready workforce in Stone County. I mean, these are breadwinner jobs. We'll take full use and benefit from the VOTEC capabilities that exist in the county school as well as the community college. And we can leverage the ports as well as the rail. We can take all that and we can create a very high value export business. I mean, these are dollars that will be coming in from Europe and Asia. And this is not a once and done project. I mean, it's more of a perennial type of a scenario. One of the other priorities that we saw identified was leveraging existing resources. I talked about the infrastructure, corporate. I mean, I ask you to please we incorporated with their application several letters of support and ask that you review those from the stakeholders, particularly on the education side, corporate, professional associations, and local community and government. Another priority was the ability to move quickly. Okay, this is past shovel ready. Okay, from the point in time that we've got the green light on the grant, okay, we'll be fully operational and generating those revenues and employing those people within 22 months. Okay, the fund was seeking high growth industry creation. I'll refer to a Accelerate to 2060 market assessment that I guess Hancock and Stone counties did a few years back. And biomass and forestry products are one of 7 target industries for South Mississippi. Okay, another priority was impact outside the region. Okay, well, on an international basis, we have to take a look at what's driving this demand. There are 38% of power internationally is generated from burning coal. And wood pellets have been deemed by the EPA and the European Union to be carbon neutral and a suitable replacement for that. 38 OECD countries have banned coal by 2030. I mean, this march has started. Banks, investors, and institutional investors in insurance, they're abandoning coal. Okay, so the good news is to South Mississippi and particularly in the Stone County area is that we can take this glut of wood timber products that exist and convert that into a high value export business. Okay. But the drivers behind this is if you've got a coal-fired facility in Germany, and you're faced with having to shut that down and dismantle it versus, and not only that, reconstruct some, either call it wind or solar or whatever. Okay, we can take that existing facility with a very low cost retrofit, have it burn wood pellets instead. That's happening now and it has been done. So wood pellets are the absolute lowest cost per megawatt solution for these international power producers. So in summary, I'd say you're interested in outcome and performance metrics. We will prepare a quarterly review. We'll identify actual versus plan and look at the metrics of jobs, purchases, salaries, taxes paid, taxable base, and where we are in terms of relative to our schedule. And so with that, we'll open it up for Q&A. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Snelling. Appreciate you. Let me just ask if we have any questions from the advisors.
Yeah, this is Mark Cumbus. You know, I agree about the pellet industry and the tremendous impact it can have in South Mississippi. My question is, and I know the Guthrie family, they're honest, honorable people. Are y'all in any way affiliated with, or would you be a competitor of the George County operation Enviva?
The which one? Which location?
Enviva, Enviva. They've got a connection, supposedly in an operation in process of in Lucedale, Mississippi, and
Right.
then the idea is to lease they've got a contract with the Port of Pascagoula to load their material there.
Mark, that's a great point, and a couple of things I would say. We are familiar with many of the personnel in Enviva. We're buying an old Enviva site, okay? But in the 400-ton facility in Lucedale, we actually look to piggyback off of them in leveraging that Port of Pascagoula. I mean, it turns out Perkinston is almost a direct 30-mile straight shot down on the railroad track that is adjacent to the property to the Gulf, to the Port of Gulfport. Okay, so we've got kind of two access. There's some things we need to work out from the standpoint of what depth that the ports can handle. Okay, but we look at the Enviva location as being actually complementary to us. There is a proximity location that goes with supply of the wood. I mean, we feel that it's roughly about a 100-mile limitation before it becomes non-competitive bringing in the logs.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, actually. So based on this proposal here, so you are repowering a plant that Enviva abandoned, I guess, a few years ago. So based on that plant shutting down versus where you are today, I mean, what's the rationale or what you're seeing different in the market that tells you that that now is the appropriate time to get back in this business? Because at the end of the day, I mean, they shut it down for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So what gives you reason to think that that it's going to do better now than before they shut it down?
Well, a couple of things I would respond to it. That is that Enviva was they were a part owner in that facility. That's one item. It was somewhat of a stepchild for them. The production was relatively low. A case in point, the facility they're building in Lucedale is 400 tons per year. Okay, ours is 130. So just the scale has to do with it. And after they had grown to become a New York Stock Exchange traded, I mean, it's just, you know, small facility but they had bigger fish to fry. Okay. Yeah, and so, but from a standpoint, the demand has continued to march on. Some estimates as high as 13% a year. From the standpoint of wood pellets to provide fuel for the facilities in Asia and in Europe. And that is you can actually enter in. There's an active business to be able to contract long-term contracts for the sale of the product. And there's also now an active spot market for it. Okay, we make the product to the specification. There's an active spot market, and we can also contract long-term. We don't have any doubt about the ability to sell the product.
So as far as what you quoted on those future revenues, so you're basically saying that based on this business, that this business is basically the new business is going to be based on long-term contracts where we can see where that revenue be guaranteed.
Yes, I would say this. As the chief financial officer, I'm primarily interested in optimization. Okay, my conviction is that we need to lock in long-term contracts to the extent that we can maintain our debt service, and we can more opportunistically sell product in the spot market. Currently, that's running about $180 a ton versus $150 for the long-term contracts.
Okay.
I would like to ask what your definition of breadwinner salary is. What's the range from the minimum salary that you offer to the max? There are a lot of definitions out there.
I know our averages come in at, if you give me some time, I can actually access my spreadsheet where we calculated the average, but the averages come in at 49. But these, when I talk about breadwinner, I'm talking about these are manufacturing jobs. And, from a standpoint, I would say this, if you're worried about a second wave of COVID, we'd have 25 people working in a 15,000 square foot building. So we don't have any concerns about that. But these are manufacturing jobs. Maintenance, equipment operators, loader operators, and we would be able to avail ourselves of the VOTEC capabilities that exist in Stone County. It'd be very well suited for us.
Yeah, that's a real attribute for you both with community college and Stone County High School. So thank you.
Thank you. Part of that would include actual internships and shadowing us. Dr. Barbara Fowler has been very instrumental in our efforts in this area. We've got a great relationship with them, as well as the community college, and we would avail ourselves very much of those resources.
This is Mark Cumbus. I'd like to ask Randall, what is your geographical area that you would be harvesting and buying the timber? What areas? Would that be Stone, getting into Harrison, maybe Jackson? George?
Absolutely. Right. Yes, Mark. Our prime market will be Stone County, Harrison, Pearl River, and even George and Jackson. In other words, we can actually run this. There's enough wood in Stone County to actually do it without any problem. But you can't just stay in one place. You got to go all around. But being our proximity and where we're sort of like in the center of South Mississippi, we can pull from almost every direction where we get all our wood from.
That's a huge point, because that would put some dollars in the pockets of a lot of people that need it in South Mississippi.
Right.
May I ask just one last question? I appreciate your presentation, and it sounds like you've got a good business plan. Sounds like you've got revenue forecasts, profitability forecasts. Given that, would you be able to get private financing to reactivate the mill if you did not receive this money? So I'm essentially saying, why do you need this level of subsidy in order to get the project off the ground if you have a business plan that does have that kind of revenue involved?
Well, we have been putting the shoe leather down in search of that, and we have, basically that our experience has been that these financing requirements kind of outstrip some of the local relationships that the Guthrie has dealt with. The lending facility for the $4 million that the Guthrie family is fully collateralizing. So there is significant skin in the game. Was a Midwest syndicate of banks, and they're still in play, but COVID kind of put the brakes on a lot of their lending activity. And this is, for people outside this area, this is kind of a hybrid type of scenario that they're not quite familiar with. But that's not to say that, we have, and I'm not at liberty to speak, but we currently have dialogue with a strategic player who could fill that gap. But it's within the realm of possibilities that it's just a matter of time, and we've only been actively out pursuing this for about the last 5 months. Now, give us enough time. Yes, I think we can get it done.
Thank you very much.
Ashley, could I ask one last question, or remind? I'm trying to understand. Is Enviva a direct competitor in this?
Well, how far is Lucedale from?
Yes, they're only about 35 miles away.
Yes, but there'll be a couple of answers to that. Is that we understand they're pulling most of their wood from eastern Alabama. But in Stone County alone, there's 10 million tons of wood available. Okay, we're going to be taking out only 2.6% of that annually if Stone County alone supplied it. There's such a large wood basket here that there's plenty for both entities. And we do have a proximity limitation. We estimate it's about 100 miles before it's just not profitable to haul it in.
Are there other competitors? Are there other competitors now within that 100-mile radius?
How far is Drax? That's over 100 miles.
130 miles.
Okay, that's it. But once again, when you get there, when you talk about and it's really a stretch, a 100-mile limitation on being able to supply the raw material before it begins to impact the economics. Okay. We actually have room for expansion at this facility. At this locale, the market can handle it. There's plenty of room for growth here.
And just one final question here, and it just follows what Greg said, is that, and what I'm hearing here is from the timber supply. There's plenty of supply there, but as far as the wood pellet market. Will the market support what you're proposing, what Enviva is basically got on the table? So from a market share standpoint and the dollars that are going to be invested in this project, can the market support this region here as far as what we're getting ready to see on wood pellets?
Are you talking about from a standpoint of our sales?
Yes.
Well, we're talking about 38% of the international electrical power generation. Their 38% has been coal, and coal is being eliminated. It's not. We're going to transition down, but 38 of the OECD companies have said, okay, we're going to stop it. Okay, that market is absolutely huge, and that's why the growth rate estimates are anywhere between 8 to 13%. We're not going to run out of being able to sell any of this anytime soon.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for staying to answer our questions.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you so much.
If anyone has any questions, my link, email, and phone number are in there, and we will respond promptly. Thanks so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. All right, the next project we have up is the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission Assault Landing Strip project. The GCRF funds requested are $6.94 million. The total project funding is $9.361 million. The project received a score of 22 out of a possible 45 points. Do we have anyone with the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission here to present today?
Yes, Chairman. I believe that Mr. Cotter has joined as HCPHC. I'm making him a presenter now. I'll let him answer as to whether or not they have a presentation. I do know that he's able for questions. Mr. Cotter, I believe that you're a presenter.
Good morning. On behalf of the Port and Harbor Commission, appreciate having the opportunity to touch base on this project. This project reaches across not only Hancock County and the Port and Harbor Commission, but across the Gulf Coast. Greatly supports Keesler Air Force Base and their mission there, above and beyond Keesler and what we do here, supporting the Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force at Stennis International. This will also bring in additional units from around the United States in support of their training missions. Not as prepared as we would like, as we are responding to Hurricane Zeta, and our internet just back up just a couple hours before this call, but here and available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Do we have any questions from the board?
I've got a question. This is Mark Cumbus, and I'm just the biggest reservation I have out this. I'm very familiar. All right, assault landing. Those words, to me, sounds like something that would be part of the budget of a department of expenditure. So, I mean, define where's the line between something that the Department of Defense we would look to have our taxpayer, which I'm one, to fund assault landing strip. Why is that? Why do you need this money?
Good question, Mark. And as this project has evolved, we've actually locally changed it from an assault landing strip to a multi-user aero strip. Yes, Keesler Air Force Base would be a beneficiary, United States Department of Defense, a beneficiary, but we're also looking to use this strip to support unmanned vehicles. We've attempted to support USM. They brought a large UAV, placed it on the runway, and before they can get all their systems up and running, it has had to come off for normal traffic. We also have a spaceport license underway. This will be a loading and unloading area for rocket fuels. It'll be a horizontally launched facility where rockets will be hung under the wing of a standard aircraft, fueled up, takes off, goes over to the Gulf of Mexico, and then launches towards the Straits of Florida to put smaller satellite type devices up there. So yes, assault landing strip, but really a multi-user strip where there will be DoD as well as drone, collegiate, and spaceport type use.
Mr. Cotter, let me just piggyback on that. We talked quite a bit last year when we recommended this project, and I was very supportive of this one, about the fact that the current DoD assault landing strips are a little bit oversubscribed as it is, and given that DoD does not want to have other outside users coming into DoD property, this allows to have the facilities, the infrastructure in place at a private airport where multiple users, including DoD, but not not excluding other users, could possibly go. And my understanding was that Camp Shelby, for example, actually was supportive of potentially having this infrastructure in place. Can you talk to that just a bit?
Yes, thank you very much, Ashley. And originally, the site up there at Camp Shelby was a congressional earmark, and with that, the monies did not go through the Guard Bureau. Therefore, the Guard Bureau has not been supporting that. So this strip would also work to support our fellow Mississippians with the C-17 operation up at Jackson. They use that strip at Shelby. Now, again, I think as you just alluded to schedule the use of that strip up at Camp Shelby, phone calls and requests have to be done well in advance. Some of the Combat Readiness Training Center folks at Gulfport, Biloxi will need to move up to Shelby to support aircraft rescue firefighting. Stennis International Airport today has that firefighting here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So again, better access for all the Air Force Reserve at Keesler Air Force Base, our fellow Mississippians up at the C-17s in Jackson, and then Naval Special Warfare at the Stennis Space Center, our colleges and locals using drone activities.
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to ask, just roughly, your opinion, your guess on what percentage would this be used by the military, i.e. DOD funds, funding, versus the non-DOD, the more private things that you mentioned a while ago. What percentage of do you see this, once it's done, would be used by, would be a quote government activity versus a local?
Yeah, I think from a percentage standpoint, it may be a little skewed towards the DOD, but from a daytime operation, I would see the numbers being greater for civilian non-DOD use. But when you take into consideration nighttime operations, night vision goggle operations, which again are not just pure DOD, but also United States Coast Guard and others that use this airfield, you're looking at it, close to 50-50, but a little leaning towards the military, again, with the nighttime operations.
I noticed that you didn't cite any jobs, neither part-time nor full-time. So we're used to expanded job creation, and you've got to create some jobs with this project. So could you explain that?
Yes, I mean, this is more so a project of job retention. The C-130s at Keesler Air Force Base had already been one time slated to move to Little Rock, Arkansas, which would absolutely minimize the activity at Keesler Air Force Base. And what kind of numbers, I apologize, I'm not prepared to mention, respond to today, but a large majority of the airmen, the reservists at Keesler Air Force Base would go away with the aircraft being relocated to Little Rock, Arkansas. Additionally, as the state of Mississippi State University is overseeing the implementation of unmanned vehicles in the National Airspace System Plan. They've come down here on a number of occasions, and we have not been able to support them. This strip would allow that to happen. So the job numbers are not as easily obtainable. But again, when you start looking at our collegiate system and the numbers over at the Keesler Air Force Base, it's a significant number.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the jobs will be there when the projects come in, but on a day-to-day basis, if there's not a need for the strip to be active, then there's nobody out there. This
strip will just become additional infrastructure at Stennis International Airport. We can have a 1.5 mile long runway today. This will be a parallel runway. Civilians can use it. We also have other activity on the airfield that will also be encapsulated in this design. Helicopter operations, run-up pads for after civilian jet engine repairs as well.
I got it. I just was trying to make it separate, and it's part of that existing infrastructure.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? All right, here none. Thank you, Mr. Cotter. Appreciate your time and attendance today.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, the next project on the list is the Memorial Hospital Foundation Memorial Multi-Specialty Center project. They've requested $26 million in GCRF funds. The total funding request is the total funds for the project are $33 million. And the project scored a 13 out of a possible 45 points. I believe I see Mr. Nico there with Memorial Hospital. Welcome, sir. We're glad to have you today. You may want to just check I think you're maybe on mute still there. You may have to just click the little microphone icon on your control panel, but that should get you off mute.
How about this?
We got you. We got you loud and clear. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate your time. First of all, I want to thank you for the consideration last year. This year, we spent time trying to improve our project, and I truly feel that we, at this point, have a project that meets and checks all the boxes for the GCRF funding. This is truly a transformative project. It is now a collaboration by Mississippi institutions for the benefit of coastal Mississippians. That was sort of the improvement we did last year. Last year, we were sort of, the center was built. We had the infrastructure, we had the sustainability, we had the long-term economic impact. What we've added is the collaboration and formal affiliation of Batson's Children's Hospital in Jackson, as well as MGCCC. So Dr. Graham will also be affiliated with the center. So truly, we are meeting all the benefits for the coastal communities. The biggest part of this multi-specialty building is, as you know, a pediatric outpatient center where we will begin to do outpatient pediatric procedures that currently are traveling mostly to Louisiana and Alabama, where 70% of our pediatric population is a Medicaid population. So Mississippi Medicaid dollars are being sent to both Alabama and Louisiana for the benefit of those states. This project keeps the majority of those patients here at home, along with the Medicaid dollars. It also will house our new resident program. The coast will have its first resident program, and it begins in July of 2021. We'll temporarily house it in our south building here at campus until the multi-specialty building is completed. Additionally, we have a sustainability of an additional inpatient rehab beds that will add to the economic growth of this building, where the rental income to support the building will be about $700,000 a year that will assist with the sustainability going forward. So the presentation was mailed to y'all as well as a video, and I'll ask you if you don't mind, I sent it to you on Friday. I'll resend to you to pass to the committee members for a view. But what I'd like to do is sort of answer questions about the project. It seems to be the most way to sort of advance your conceptual understanding of what the project means to the coast.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nico. Any questions from the advisory board members?
Yeah, this is Mark Cumbest. Your plan sounds like a noble one. Quite frankly, I have never understood why there is not more among the local hospital systems. Seems like everybody's trying to outdo the other. There seems to be a tremendous, I don't know, one-upsmanship that continually comes up. If you could combine resources, walk arm in arm with some of your competition, it would just seem more. I just don't see the cooperation among the hospitals. We're talking huge money, and yet there seems to be just a bitterness, animosity. I mean, competition's good, but it seems like there could be some joint. Everybody's trying to do the same thing and recreate the wheel, and you got a bunch of wheels in a relatively poor part of this country here. And have you thought about trying to do some collaboration with other hospitals and just forget about being so prideful?
No, Mark, you're 100% correct. And actually, one of the things that this project does exactly that. So the center will not be a memorial center. You will be able to be a pediatrician, a surgeon, and you can apply for privileges. So anyone could use this infrastructure. The reason that there isn't a pediatric-centered outpatient surgery center is because of the anesthesia that's required for kids. Singer River System, Hancock Medical, that is a special need that the volume, unless the collaboration is combined and sort of neutralized, helps that cost and sort of that benefit to bring them here. You can't generate enough volume and the cost to support a pediatric surgeon, no matter what the proceduralist may be. That is why they're at their teaching centers, whether it's Ochsner, whether it's USA, whether it's UMMC. The formal affiliation with UMMC will rotate those specialists down here. So our families will not have to go up there. They'll come here. So the same thing can happen with an Ochsner physician. They can actually come to this center and do the procedure here. The goal was to keep the families and those kids local. So that collaboration is actually going to happen with this project. Now, the co-branding part of it, that will remain. It is unfortunate that the competition is taking community members out of our state, and unfortunately, those Medicaid dollars are following our Mississippians. My goal is to create that collaboration, but to keep it local and not to send it out of state. So hopefully, I answered a little bit of the question. But this location, while it's on our campus, the access will be at any provider who wants to do a procedure for these kids, because the infrastructure for the pediatric outpatient world will be there.
Thank you. For questions?
Shanika, this is Greg Cronin. Two questions. One is the application mentions a 3-year and a 4-year time frame. You may have answered this. I guess, is there any idea at this point which one you would operate with? Second question I have is, kind of ties into that, is given the amount of the request, it would be a significant portion of those monies that are available. These monies come in each year, and those monies. So what we've seen the legislature do on several occasions is to fund a portion of the request, maybe with a plan to do annually to meet that goal. Is the project? Are you able to complete the project if, in fact, that's how the money? I guess my personal opinion would be, I think it'd be difficult to see. I think it'd be unrealistic, maybe, that the legislature would fund this entire project right out of the gate. So is it workable that if those monies are allocated over a period of time?
Absolutely, and the reasoning for the 3 to 4 year phase was to sort of spread the funding over. The reality is, if we get a 40% or more funding from y'all or from the legislators, we're going to do the project, whether the funding is complete in the next years or not. Quite honestly, this is very important to our board and to UMMC, that we have these services located here for the pediatric population. And additionally, the Department of Medicaid is aware of our dollars that are going to the other states. So this accomplishes many fronts for us. So with some funding from y'all, the ability to begin the project will happen. The sustainability by the tenant will allow us to have this ongoing, as well as the 270 job creations with $12 million of an economic impact annually. So to answer your question, while we would like to receive full funding, we realize that is not realistic, but that we feel that the project will move forward with a partial funding because of the importance to this community to make this happen.
Thank you.
I just have one question, follow up on what Greg just said a little bit. So knowing that there's multiple phases, so at the end of phase 1, will these services be available at the end of phase 1, or is phase 1 just a construction phase?
Phase 1 is just a construction phase because it's a 3-story building. We would commit to moving forward with the building, and it's estimated about 2 years for the project to begin to be ready. Our first obligation will be the second floor, which would be connected to the main hospital, which would be the outpatient surgery center.
So what we're talking about here, so for the actual services that they're going to possibly be performed, we're probably talking 3-4 years down the road.
Now, I would say two years down the road. So if we get the funding, maybe 3 years from today, yes. I would say if the funding was done in 2021, that we'd be able to begin seeing patients in 2023.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Right.
Well,
none. Thank you very much, Mr. Nico. We appreciate you.
I appreciate y'all's time very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. All right, that brings us to our next project, and this project is the 1515 Government Street project by OHOS Land LLC and the City of Ocean Springs. They've requested $8.751 million of the total project cost of $26.58 million, and the project scored 19 out of a possible 45 points. Do we have a presenter?
Ashley, you may have skipped over the YMCA.
I apologize. I looked ahead on my list. Let me take a step backward there. The next project is actually the Mississippi Gulf Coast YMCA project, and they have requested $18.424 million of a total project cost of $23.03 million, and the project scored 16 out of a possible 45 points. My apologies.
Good morning. How's everyone doing?
Is there anyone else I should make a presenter, Mr. Kirkland, other than yourself?
No, it's just me.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, guys. We appreciate the opportunity. So the Coastal Y project is a repeat. It's a resubmission, I should say, of the project we had last year. A lot of involvement by the community and different entities in building this concept. And so we feel very strongly it's the appropriate way. Most of you guys are familiar with it. It was recommended by the advisory board last year. Again, it's the $18 million we're asking for from the BP funding, and we'll bring 5 through community fundraising. It creates 70 full-time jobs, and through construction, there'll be another 150 jobs with a $7.5 million economic impact. Overall, what we look to do with this project is have a great economic impact, job creation, but then also the big piece is the quality of life. And so we know in our community we have a lot of underserved areas, and our focus is just really increasing the quality of life for our coast. So on an annual economic impact between the membership and the program pieces and the pool we will have that will draw in swim meets for the state of Mississippi, you're looking at a $7 to $8 million economic impact every year. And so that's going to be a great asset for the community and a great driver to stimulate growth on the coast. We also know there's a lot of financial need on the coast. We have obesity in the state, and that will address those items as well through our financial assistance program. So all these things we've mentioned before, and we continue to believe that is the best way to serve our community. It is centrally located, so we serve the 6 lower counties, and at the coastal, at the Gulfport Highlands location, it's right off of I-10, would serve the coast well. Just be in mind of that. As we look at the future and we think about what the Y can do, I've heard several mention trying to bring young families, young folks who are dynamic. This kind of project is an igniter for growth. It will bring companies to the coast. It will bring jobs to the coast. It will bring families to the coast. And so when you think about how's the best way to bring and keep our children, our grandchildren, and those we want to bring here, this is an amenity they're going to be expecting. If you are familiar with the Pensacola YMCA, Quint Studer, who's the developer there, donated $6 million to that project. He wanted it there before the community development piece came in. And at this point, it's been over $150 million economic dollars that has brought in for impacting that area around that YMCA. And it is kind of the cornerstone for that. And again, his large donation was to make sure that Y was there to stimulate that kind of growth. But, you know, we've listened, we've talked to legislators, we've talked to you guys, and we've worked with many. And one of the things we've heard is the concern of its size. The ask is very large. And while we did all the studies, we did community surveys, we believe it's the appropriate tool, we also understand it may just be viewed as too much money. And so we have, as you would expect, we've taken that into consideration. And we'll show you some examples of some smaller footprints. But what I want to say is we are open to doing it in phases. Everything is scalable. So if a $23 million project is just too much, we can definitely shrink that. And that's based on the availability of funding. It can be done over years. You may have a 68,000 square foot facility for $23 million. If you came in with $8 million, it would be scalable to that size. So, but still, while maybe impacting some of the service and impact, it's still a tool that can serve the community. So we are open to that. And while we do feel like the Gulfport Highlands location is centrally located and would be the easiest accessible, but we're also flexible with site location. So if the group feels like this is too big or it's not the appropriate place, or we need to break this into pieces, we're open to that. And as you look at the next couple of slides, you'll just see examples. You know, there's over 3,000 Ys in the United States. These are just examples of YMCAs across the country that are on a smaller footprint level. And the one that you're looking at now is the Spirlino Family YMCA in Riverview, Florida. And that's a $12 million project, 36,000 square feet. The next one, I believe, is going to be Berkeley Heights. That's a $14 million project at 37,000 square feet. Again, serving many of the same amenities. Obviously, at a smaller amount, we may not have the pool to serve the community on the swim meets. But again, the main thing is bringing this amenity to the coast to increase our quality of life. And so if that's something that the group is interested in, we can definitely go back to the drawing board and come back with a smaller version, separate sites. We would like to do that through data, so there will be work to be done there. But we're open to that suggestion if that is an area of interest for the group. Again, this project is poised for partnerships. You'll see many examples of how WISE are working with hospitals or schools or churches or different groups to enhance their area, stimulate growth, and bring folks to the area. So that's our goal here. And we just really appreciate you guys giving us the time to present this project again this year. We appreciate your support and would be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirkland. Glad to have you today. Let me just ask if any members of the advisory board have any questions.
I have a question. This is Mark Cumbus. how much is the land? How much is the cost of the land?
The Highlands property is $1 million, and that would not come out of this 18 million. That is separate. The Y would raise those funds. But if the group came back and said, you know, we want to see this in conjunction with something at another location, that changes that, and we're open to that discussion.
So, tell me the acreage again. How big is the property?
It's 6 acres. And so it's located in a 40-acre parcel north of I-10, about a mile above I-10.
Okay. You know, this is too deep a subject to bring up now, but I know that public money was given to either the current owners or the the previous owners. I don't know. The only thing that gives me a little heartburn is public money. Now you're saying that y'all are paying. None of this money is going to pay the $1 million. None of the money that you're getting from this grant, from us, I mean from the recovery fund, is going to purchase the land. Have you already purchased the land, or are you going?
We have an agreement on the property, but that again, and we would purchase it with our own funding. That would not come out of the restoration funds. But as I said, if the group comes back and says we would like to see a different option on that, we would be open to that. Funding would go for the land.
I'm just very sensitive, right or wrong, to money. Public money being paid to people and then rolling it and rolling it and rolling it again. That has nothing to do with your project. I think it's a great project, but I think it behooves all of us to know.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, it appears we must have lost Mr. Cumbus there for a moment. Let me just ask if there's any other questions while he gets reconnected.
Rob, you know, the old e-fitness facility is for sale, for what I understand, at a bargain basement price. Did you have a group of reviewers to go and look at that property to see if it was viable?
We have toured that facility, yes, and with partnerships, it's a huge facility. It's 125,000 square feet, I believe. It would take a group of partners to work that. It would be difficult for any one entity to make that work, but that could be an option. You know, we would be open for that discussion as well. Yeah, our goal here is to serve the community, and we're not creating something that if we don't get this, we take our ball and go home. We're open to suggestions. We're open to dialogue. Again, just serving communities where we want to be. So we would entertain that conversation and be happy to take a partial lead on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, this is Greg Cronin. The $1 million is would there be anticipated to be borrowed funds, or is that monies that the Y would raise? And is any of that money in place now?
The money's not in place. It will be fundraised. We have a group that would assist us in the fundraising, and we put that on pause when we weren't funded, and then with the COVID as well. We're waiting to see where this goes. But again, that funding would come from us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none, we now will move on to the project I mentioned earlier, the 1515 Government Street project by OHOS Land LLC in the city of Ocean Springs. Request is for $8.751 million. The total project cost is $26.58 million, and the project scored a 19 out of a possible 45 points in the MDA scoring. Do we have our presenter ready for this project?
I'm about to make Mr. Joe Cloyd a presenter. Sir, is there anyone other than you, Mr. Cloyd, who would like to present for this project?
No, sir. I think it'll just be me. Can y'all hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank y'all for this opportunity to discuss this, what I believe to be a very important project for the city of Ocean Springs. We sincerely appreciate the board recognizing this last year and for your recommendation that yielded an approximate $2 million appropriation from the legislature, which I believe that the legislature intended to be a multi-year allocation. We're hopeful to have the opportunity to go back to Jackson this spring with the same recommendation. They take these recommendations seriously, in my experience from last year. So this is very important. And it's particularly important for our community as it stands as the only available site that I'm aware of that can be used for downtown parking garage. This development from your numbers and ours is highly leveraged from the private sector. We're requesting approximately $8.75 million of an over $26 million project, 8.75 in public funds for a total project cost of over $26 million. The public sources of these funds will be used to construct a parking garage and to make associated public infrastructure investments. It solves a major community need, which is public parking in downtown Ocean Springs. At the same time, it creates an opportunity for our downtown to continue to expand to the east down Government Street. Currently, downtown Ocean Springs stops at this site. So this development is absolutely transformational for our downtown Ocean Springs and for our town as a whole. When the 1515 Government Street site was originally developed in 1950, it grew out of a public-private partnership. Jackson County purchased the property and constructed an light industrial building and leased it to a clothing manufacturer, E.R. Moore. The use of in clothing manufacturing continued. It's kind of amazing to think that was the use back then, but it continued until that operation closed down in the early 1990s. Obviously, light industrial use doesn't make sense. It is not compatible with the current neighborhood that exists on the east edge of downtown Ocean Springs now. The building was a blight from the 90s all the way through. Honestly, up until recently, it was used briefly during Katrina for relief efforts. Habitat and others used it, and it was demolished in 2016. Jackson County, like I said, we purchased it back in the 50s, and they sold it to our group, to Ohos Development, in the last couple of years, and what that did at a minimum was to put a public non-ad valorem tax gaining piece of property onto the tax rolls to help all. And so obviously now it's back on the ad valorem tax rolls. The redevelopment of this property will rectify the blighted condition of this area and significantly contribute to economic growth and stability towards the east of downtown. The project plan is to repurpose this vacant lot to a thriving mixed-use development. The site is 2.1 acres, and it's centrally located in the thriving commercial, entertainment, and cultural district of downtown. And it will accommodate residential use, mixed use, restaurants, retail, and a boutique hotel. The master plan calls for 3 interconnected buildings. One is a mixed-use multifamily building. One is a boutique hotel with approximately 30 rooms, as well as meeting space, a restaurant, and a rooftop bar. The third section is just a true mixed-use building, which will include about 7,500 square feet of retail and 6,000 square feet of office space with a couple of condominium units on the top. The entrance lobby along Government Street will be attractive and will invite guests and residents to enter the property. All of the units that are residential and office in nature will have exterior balconies and dedicated controlled access parking. The boutique hotel, which I'm in that industry separate from this in Ocean Springs, will provide much needed short-term rental accommodations, which is in relatively short supply in our area of the world over there. Through partnership with the city, the project will also include a highly valued commodity, which is off-street public parking, nearly doubling the amount of available public parking in the vicinity for all activities, for festivals and all the other things that we do there, including just a normal weekend night when we evolve out of this current COVID-19 situation. The availability of parking spaces will accommodate not only the new businesses and residential activities being created by the development, but provide a substantial bit of new parking for the surrounding area, including downtown. Due to the historic nature of our downtown area, parking is extremely limited, and narrow streets do not allow for really any expansion. In addition to managing the parking garage upon completion, we are working with the city on several incentives, including but not limited to tax abatements and TIF. So the city is very much involved in this development. The development of the property and its new businesses will achieve the goal of job creation and growth in the area and support economic growth and enhancement and enhancing the attractiveness of downtown Ocean Springs for both businesses and customers alike. By incorporating a variety of use, including residential, dining and entertainment, boutique hotel, retail, and office space on the same property, the neighborhood feel and eclectic character will be maintained and enhanced. The ultimate outcome of this project will be to increase the sense of place that will both complement and enhance the attractiveness of our city, contributing to economic growth while providing much needed public parking to address the current and future needs of our downtown. And that ends my spiel on this. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you very much, Mr. Floyd. Good to have you here. Let me just ask if we have any questions from the advisory board member.
I've got one question, Ashley.
Sure.
So based on the funding that you've already gotten from the legislature based on the last appropriation, so if you do not get further funding from the legislature, is your project still a go?
The project would be a go. However, any public parking component of it would not be a go. Currently the development site and associated street parking that's currently around it can accommodate the development. The reason for the ask of the legislature is really to provide the public parking component, and without it, a private developer is not going to develop public parking for public use. For free public parking, which is what the intention of this would be. So the development would move forward. However, the ability to use this site, which there aren't any other sites, that opportunity for our town would evaporate without future funding. I do have some confidence that the legislature will, look hard at continuing to fund this. They like the project, at least from my experience up there, and so we would love the opportunity to continue to take another bite at the apple to get closer to a number that we could perform the parking garage, because that's the key part of the development from the public side of this.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Joe, as much as I love Ocean Springs, I'm not familiar with where this location is. So I'm a landmark visual kind of person. So can you tell me what's close by so in my brain I can locate it?
You're familiar with the Mary C. O'Keefe Cultural Center. It's not directly across the street, but it's catty corner to the northwest across the street from the Mary C.
Okay.
So if you think about, are you familiar with Ocean Springs Lumber?
Right.
It's just west of Ocean Springs Lumber. So it's on the eastern edge of what, at least I don't know that there's actually an actual demarcation for it, but what I consider downtown. So the parking would be functional for folks to use and get anywhere on Government and Washington easily. And it happens to be, I mean, I believe the last decent sized site that could accommodate a garage. You know, I mean, obviously there's a couple of big parking areas like the Villa Maria and others, and they're just not interested or willing to add parking garage activity there based on the nature of their use. And so this is, to my knowledge, about the last opportunity our town's going to have to do such a thing.
Okay, I've got it now.
Perfect.
Hey, Joe, I've got a question. I know one of the components that was in the project that you submitted last year was that it would be like a gathering place as well. If the garage is built, then you would have like this large area to project movies and stuff like, for a destination for the people to attend, Christmas time, such as that. Is that still part of the plan?
Yes, sir. And I apologize for neglecting to mention that. If we're able to get full funding on this, rather than the parking garage being a simple utilitarian looking structure, it would be skinned in such a way that it could be projected on. And the idea would be where, during Christmas you could, or maybe, we're just out of Halloween, so the nightmare before Christmas could be projected on it. There is a public park area that would separate the garage and the development, and so it would be a place where families could put blankets out and watch a show, or it could also just be more of a entertainment related concert light show that could be projected on the parking garage. So rather than just it being a utilitarian ugly structure, the hope, if we can get full funding, would be to skin it in such a way that it could be an entertainment asset as well.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Floyd. Appreciate you.
Thank y'all for the opportunity.
Let me just mention we are up against 12 o'clock, and we had on our agenda scheduled to break for a lunch. We have 4 projects remaining on our list. My suggestion will be that we just go ahead and get through those 4 projects. Does anybody have any objection to that?
No objection.
All right, thank you. Well, we'll just move along. Our next project is the Pearl River Community College, PRCC, Hancock Aviation Aerospace Workforce Academy project. The request is for $1.968 million. Total funding of the project is $11.663 million. The project received 22 points out of a possible 45. Do we have anyone here to present on that project?
Mr. Chairman, I've made Angie Kaufman a presenter. I'm going to try to share a screen if Ms. Kaufman would like for me to do so. I have a PowerPoint that I received after the meeting began, so I'm going to try to do it. We'll see how we do here. Ms. Kaufman, are you able to speak?
I am. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And apologize for just getting that presentation to you this morning. First of all, thank you, board, for your time and consideration for this project, both last year and this year. As you all know, this is a 2014 project for Pearl River Community College and Hancock County that is finally coming to fruition in the year 2020. Just kind of want to give a little thank you to Clay Williams for pointing out the importance and evolving future of our aviation and aerospace industry in our area. We actually met with Lieutenant Colonel Sylvian with TASM, Army National Guard, earlier this year in March. Oh, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Earlier this March, before COVID hit, to discuss some possible partnerships with them as well. Can y'all see any of the slides or no?
Ms. Kaufman, I apologize. I'm not able.
And that's okay. That's all right. I'll just continue talking.
I apologize. I'm not able to. Yes, ma'am.
No, that's totally on me. I should have got it to you in a timely manner. Pearl River Community College is requesting funding from the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund for the PRCC Hancock Aviation Aerospace Workforce Academy. This, and when I say academy, it's campus. You know, as you all know, it's this campus will be located adjacent to Stennis International Airport, Hancock High School, and the Stennis Space Center buffer zone. The academy will enhance workforce training capacity and increase Mississippi's competitive advantage along with the space corridor. Leveraging federal, state, local, and private funds, PRCC is requesting a one-time investment of $1.9 million from the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund to cover the cost of career tech and workforce training equipment. The academy will bring together knowledge, training, and education through partnerships to create a center of excellence unique to this region and give Mississippi a competitive edge that cannot easily be matched. This total $11.6 million project investment will include a 26,000 square foot educational building and an 18,000 square foot aviation hangar to bridge the divide between the existing education opportunities to those of the aviation, aerospace, and workforce economies. The academy will allow PRCC to provide a steady pipeline of middle skilled workers capable of supplying the growing aviation and aerospace economy, while supporting the retention of expansion of existing businesses, as well as attracting new companies to our area. As a multifunctional and versatile campus, the academy will be able to meet the evolving needs and growth of this ever-changing field to remain on the forefront of research and innovative technologies. This transformational project meets all of the legislative priorities outlined for the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund and will impact the Mississippi Gulf Coast and the region for generations to come. I appreciate your consideration of this project, and I'm here to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you very much, Angie.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Any questions from the advisory board? All right, hearing none, thanks again. We appreciate that.
I think that's because I'm standing between you all and lunch. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you.
We appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Our next project is the Singing River Healthcare Workforce Training Academy project. Total requested funds are $15.376 million of a total project budget of $19.22 million. And it scored 6 points out of 45 in the MDA scoring system. And I see Mr. Lee Bond here with us to present. Lee, let me just make sure you can hear us and we can hear you. You have your mic unmuted there.
Yep. Can you hear me?
All right, we sure can. You go right ahead.
Hey, I was going to share my screen if I don't know, I hadn't seen anyone do that yet, but can I take a stab at that real quick?
Absolutely.
You're welcome to do that, sir. I'm unable to use the PowerPoint you sent, so if you can do it, that'd be great.
Can you see my screen right now?
We cannot. We can just see you.
Huh. All right, hold on. Close share train. I've got it shared, and that's okay. I don't have to. I can do it without the presentation. You guys have all the information, so no big deal. Just make sure I didn't. Okay. Well, I shared it. If something comes up, you can see it. Great. If not, no big deal. Well, we're super excited to present to you guys the Workforce Academy. The Senior Healthcare Workforce Academy is the name of our program, our project. And what this program will do is expand and accelerate for our community healthcare education and workforce development for the entire coast and actually surrounding areas beyond just the Mississippi Gulf Coast, we believe. It involves the construction of a multi-level clinical education complex adjacent to the hospital in Ocean Springs. As you mentioned, the cost is $15.4 million. We would provide a 20% match of that at $3.8 million, plus contribute the $3+ million of land and infrastructure that already exists, making this site ready. So the thing about our project I'd like to stress to you, it is unique. It is self-sustaining. There is no further funding that would be required. Once this capital is expended, all funding is our responsibility from that point forward. It's very similar to the Ingalls Maritime Academy, if you're familiar with that. This is the healthcare version of the Shipbuilding Academy. What this would do, we've exceeded our instructional space here at the hospital and both hospitals, or all three really. And this would allow expanded training and apprenticeship operations. It would give us immediate employment abilities for qualified graduates from high school and from this program in very critical demand specialties. Those range from CNAs, surgical techs, medical assistants, phlebotomists, physical therapy techs, and even environmental services technicians. It will make us more competitive regionally for the long term and help us, we believe, retain people here on the Gulf Coast with these high-paying technical jobs. It would also help facilitate the career pathways for people in positions like registered nurses, LPNs, and respiratory therapists. This is supported by the community college. You got their letter. As they said, they're quoting the letter. It will enhance multiple levels of training for the entire Gulf Coast. You've seen the ones from the high schools, and some of their quotes are not only will it add to the value of education, but also to the economy. And it's also supported by the Economic Development Foundation. One component is also a community health education center within the entire training facility for technical skills is a community component. And that's where we would do things like CPR, first aid, tobacco cessation, chronic disease management education, congestive heart failure and hypertension education, helping to work on the quality of life or quality of place, if you will. The thing that's different about our project than the prior year and is different than our competitors is really, and competitively, there's enough patients for all of the competition here on the coast, but this project would serve the entire coast and it's focused on training. And I want to give a big hats off to the people on our team here who developed this project because it is unique and it's a regional need in our opinion. It would also include a few specialty medical offices, things that are underserved areas like cardiology, rheumatology, and endocrinology. And at the heart of it is 28 new patient care rooms that are designated to allow training opportunities to students to get hands-on clinical experience. We would be able to fill them effortlessly, and it's designed around a training program. This project exceeds the legislative requirements. It checks all 15 boxes. It provides 220 new full-time, well-paying, very needed positions in our community. And then it perpetuates itself through the people that it produces for here and all along the Gulf Coast, whether it's our hospitals or other healthcare facilities in the region. Right now, we are unable to accommodate a lot of those high school and community college programs to the extent we should, and we would lever our existing partnerships with them to run through as many as 1,000 students a year, we believe, that could participate in apprenticeship programs. One thing this would also do is Mississippi, we have a disproportionate high incidence of chronic disease. That's a fact. We all know it. One thing that excites me about this project and makes it transformative, or what I would call revolutionary, is it gives us the capital and the commitment to be able to change that. This is a chance to not only increase jobs, but make a sustainable difference towards taking a step in putting Mississippi in a better position. The ROI on it is strong at 129%. I think this is a flagship example of what they're looking for. It's sustainable. It is going to require our investment on an ongoing basis afterwards, not additional federal or state funds of any kind. It's literally going to be funded by us after the capital. We think the legislature is going to be excited about it, and we respectfully and humbly ask for your approval, and I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bond. Appreciate you being here today. Any questions from the advisory board? Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one. So Lee, I mean, I'm with you 100% that good quality health care is exactly what's needed on this coast. You know, after coming coming from outside and seeing the quality here, like I say, I'm 100% in agreement with you there. But when we talk about these funds here, and when I listen to the way you laid out your project and talk about the need that's there, once again, of course, that need. But then when you look at the amount of funds that are available, like I say, before we had the memorial project that was asking for roughly 26 million, and on your round numbers about 16 million. So that's about 41 million out of an amount that we've got of roughly about 57 million this year that you're basically competing against or competing for. So when I think about what you laid out, what Memorial laid out, and the services that are basically being offered in these proposals, which once again I think is very needed, then how do we figure out, or you tell me, is there any type of collaboration that could go on where you get some of what you need, they get some of what they need, and try to figure out what's the best use of these funds from a healthcare medical standpoint?
Sure. So unfortunately, there is a tough competitive environment. Sometimes in a competitive environment, maybe the consumer wins. I do think it would be nice if we could find ways, to work more together, but I don't know that that's in the cards in the near term, just to be honest. I'll draw a distinction with no disrespect intended to our friends over at Memorial, but the distinction between our project and theirs is ours is focused literally on workforce training for the entire coast. And we're not going to just be adding multi-specialty facilities. It would be more centered around training those lower level technical jobs that are also good paying jobs. A surgical tech can start in the $15, $20 an hour range, and there just aren't people, there's not a mechanism for them to the extent that's needed on the coast for training them. And I think that this shortage for healthcare workers is going to get worse with, there was a shortage before COVID, and I think that's going to continue to be an issue. And I think some of these folks, like the environmental services training, I actually think that's going to end up helping the tourism business a little bit, because we will train people on cleaning skills that can apply to a hospital or a hotel. And so I think there's I mean, no disrespect to the worthiness of their project at all. I'm just saying the difference is ours is focused on workforce development specifically, not on the provision of additional medical services as much, even though that is a component. That's really the difference, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Any other
This is Mark Cumbus. That's what differentiates it in my mind. I've been looking at it. I've read all the material. I've digested it, and this is providing workforce training is the biggest component of the biggest asset that I see that they're proposing.
And we would work to benefit. And I won't just say within state lines. I'll be candid with you. I believe that the Mobile and Gulfport and even Hattiesburg, I believe other places, if we execute this as intended, I think there'll be more than just us that benefit from this. Our desire is to provide this skills training for people in the entire region, even our competitors.
All right, any other questions? All right, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Bond. Appreciate you being here.
Welcome.
Okay, the next project we have is the Stone County High School Career and Technical Education Center Phase 2. They've requested $3.2 million in GCRF funds, and the total funds are $4 million. The score was 18 out of a possible 45 through the MDA scoring. Do we have anyone with Stone County High School?
Mr. Chairman, I'm making Ms. Anita Owen a presenter. Ms. Owen, is there anyone other than yourself who'd be presenting for your entity?
No, it's just me. Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome. You're in the driver's seat.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I thought I was going to be at the very end, but that's okay. I wanted to first thank you very much for taking the time to make this available. I know it was a little different last year. We did present last year. We did get partial funding for our Stone County CTE complex. We're back this year to ask for the remainder. We still feel like it's a very worthy project. When this became available last year, when we wrote our grant out, we felt like we had a project that was a perfect fit for what these funds were anticipated for. So we want to move forward with that, ask for this going to phase 2. I'd also like to say kudos for you for returning this year. I actually thought the board might look a little different, and I'm glad I was wrong. So congratulations for your staying power. I appreciate the time and the determination and the effort you've put into it. I know this has probably brought you into many conversations you probably didn't want to be a part of and a lot of debates, but we appreciate what you're doing. And we value your opinion, and we're hoping that the legislature does the same thing and values your opinion just as much as we do. We considered presenting, when I say we, my PR marketing, which is my secretary and myself, considered presenting a great CTE video that we have of our students, but we watched it multiple times, and it is a great video. It was shot by one of our local students who graduated a couple of years ago, and it is a great video, and it shows you lots of smiling faces and great accomplishments. And but what we really wanted to show you in that video was where they were accomplishing this at, and it didn't, of course, we didn't focus on, you know, what wasn't in there and what we couldn't do and everything else. So we didn't feel like that CTE video spoke to what we needed, and what we're talking about is facilities at this point, because we're very competitive within the state. We score right there at the top, but we do it in facilities that we rent by the day. We do it in our local high school. We make do with a corner. So we're looking to upgrade those. And we made a determination at that point not to bring those in because we did feel like it didn't actually show what we were looking for. What I did decide to do was go back to what got us to this point to start with last year. It was a very determined effort on our part. You had listed, we went through your grant, we looked at all your legislative priorities. We felt at that time we answered every one of them. And looking back at it this year, when we're going back and we're revamping it for that phase 2, we also honestly still felt like we could speak to each and every one of those priorities. So I just want to kind of touch base on those. And then go from there. Local long-term competitiveness, resulting in positive impact on tax bases, job creation, and private sector investments. We do feel like we do that. We've built some incredible internships. We're trying to bring in tax bases, job creation, and I do have high expectations for Stone County as we become that corridor that we're hoping to become. Growth potential for the region, we know that. Financial sustainability, we can sustain this indefinitely with this funding. Leverage private sector, local, state, and federal funding sources. We've done that. We've reached out to federal and state. They're a big proponent of what we're trying to accomplish. We are supported by multiple government and private sector entities. The City of Wiggins, the Board of Supervisors, the local community college are all big partners in this. They're rooting for us just like we root for them. We can move quickly and efficiently to design and engineering on this. We actually recently had 40 acres donated, 40 prime acres donated to this project in a prime location. We've got another thing going on to accomplish that, but we're super excited about that donation of land because it puts us in a prime spot to continue what we want to do in the future because we have a bigger vision to go along with our CTE center. Enhance the quality of life and business environment. This is a life-changing contribution. We talk about this, we talk about workforce development, and this is exactly what it is. As far as bringing new jobs, immediately you're talking about 2 to 4 if we can increase our allocations for workforce. But you got to look at, we graduate anywhere in between 120 and 150 students every year that go directly out to the workforce. If we can get some of those to into a 2-year program at the junior college, we're super excited about that. But we try to prepare them to go forward and be ready when they walk out of our doors because we know that the 2-year, 4-year graduation rate for high school students is not where we'd like it to be. But we want our students to be productive if they walk out and they don't go anywhere else. So we really focus on that. Enhance key regional assets, including educational institutions. I mentioned NGCCC. We're a great partner with them. We've got several things that we're working on, but besides dual enrollment, dual credit, we go to them. They come to us. We're always looking outside the box, trying to create something that works where we can transition our high school straight to them. And they come in and do a great job assisting us also. looking for projects to create a wider regional impact. Look, we know it, you know it, you can look at the numbers. We supply a large portion of the coast workforce. If you hit the highways in the morning, if you go 49, 67, you're going to see a lot of traffic that goes south. That's our students, that's our people coming to you. They don't just work here. You know, we don't have a lot in industry, so they do go out of town, and most of them come south. We also enhance the marketability of existing industrial properties. We have a great relationship with Ingalls. They've come in, they've helped us. We're actually in the process of trying to get our adult education. We're waiting for that facility because we just don't have the facility right now to meet that need. But once we do this, we will move forward that. We want to help the Port of Gulfport. We're big proponents of Memorial Hospital. We have our own local chapter here now. So we support that big time, and we're ready to go further south if we need to. We also enhance research and innovative technologies. We recently got a new business at Andranos, who will be moving into 16th section land. They're actually doing rocket science and fuels. So we're super excited about that being in there. And we've already talked about creating an internship for our students to go down there, because when we talk to these guys, it's exactly how they started. So they're excited to bring our students in and do that. And we talk about a return on investment over the duration of the project. Well, honestly, there's no way for me to calculate that, because if history is an indicator, we use our buildings for 50 to 60 years. And you figure up that 120 to 150 by 50 to 60 years, I can't really calculate that up for you, but it is a huge investment in our future. It's really close. It's past lunchtime, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'd love to answer any questions, but I really do want to tell you thank you for moving our project forward. It means a lot to us, not only to my students, but the community as a whole. We do appreciate your support in this. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Good to see you again this year.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Any questions from the board? Any questions?
Wow.
Hearing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Okay, and our final project, we have Moss Point's Magnificent Mile. They have requested $2 million in GCRF funds. The total project is $2.4 million. Project scored 9 out of a possible 45 points. I'm not sure who we have presenting on this one, Harrison, but we have our presenter.
Mr. Chairman, I'm about to make Ms. Sue Wright a presenter, and I believe she's going to introduce a video that I will play. Also, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Steve Twett, I believe is his last name, from Biloxi is on, I believe with Mike Leonard as well. So if you want to circle back in, there were 3 at the beginning that didn't present, but that's up to you, Chairman, just letting you aware of that situation. Ms. Sue Wright is on now. And if you unmute yourself, ma'am, then we'll be ready to hear from you.
Good afternoon. On behalf,
sorry, guys.
Okay, we can hear you.
All right, there you go.
Hey, good afternoon. On behalf of the City of Moss Point, Mayor King and I appreciate the opportunity to showcase our Magnificent Mile project and answer questions or provide additional information that will enable each of you to vote yes to advance Mississippi's Eastern Gateway and the first impression of the Gulf Coast to everyone. On the call today, we have the core team from our executive group of partners and collaborators. Mayor Mario King is joining me now, Alderman Wayne Lennett, Richie Ashley, our project engineer with Neil Schaefer, and Paige Roberts, Executive Director of the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce. Paige has written and produced a short video, and Harrison will play that for you now, and then we'll, from the team, answer your questions.
Thank you very much.
A pile of dirt today, a pile of money tomorrow. That's the plan for this new Bob Boyd Honda dealership on Highway 63 in Moss Point. Boyd's doors will open New Year's Day 2021. Just up the road, Estabrook Motors is not to be outdone. After 10 years of exceeding expectations at its Toyota dealership, Estabrook Nissan and Ford will move in next door. It's this type of growth the city wants to drive commercial success along its magnificent mile. from the Highway 63 exit to the Highway 613 exit on Interstate 10. The 12-phase Magnificent Mile project took its first turn with a stoplight at this Highway 63 intersection. Restore Act funding will help leverage dollars for future phases, such as expanding the frontage road along the north side of I-10 to meet Elder Ferry Road, and then widening Elder Ferry northward. The hotels and restaurants already here are good for the city, but we can go from good to great by priming the thoroughfares and acreage for multi-use development. D'Iberville's development is an apt model to envision Moss Point's future. Over the last decade, D'Iberville's sales tax diversions grew from $4.4 million to $7.9 million, while Moss Point grew less than $500,000 in the same time period. And we know the consumers will come because the demand already exists. George County residents and East Jackson County residents commonly shop in Mobile. Moss Point's Magnificent Mile would reclaim Mississippi dollars for our Gulf Coast and the Magnolia State. This project further enhances Jackson County's economic prowess, in part because of its proximity to the county's high-growth industries, such as Northrop Grumman, Halter Marine, and Omega Protein, as well as Mississippi Export Railroad and Trent Lott Airport. The anticipated growth at Highway 613 and I-10 will likely push south over the bridge into the city's beautiful riverfront downtown, ripe for revitalization.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the members of the advisory board?
Just one comment. I want to remind the board and the public that I have recused myself from voting the last time and will in the future because of to avoid any potential conflict of interest with me and my company.
All right, thank you, Mark. Any questions?
Sue, this is Greg Cronin. Just one quick question. In looking at this, I recognize it's 12 phases, but in reading the information, the estimated return on investment is a 3-year period once those 12 phases are complete.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, a little less than 3 years.
Thank you.
Do you already have potential prospects for development along that area?
Absolutely. Prospects are online, some ready to go. Others, the catalyst of this is the inspiration it's giving to people who haven't seriously looked at Moss Point before. Now they are. Additionally, property owners are calling with enthusiasm to market their properties as well.
So based on the prospects that you got, so has the city or any developers drawn up any plans of what this development could potentially look like?
Oh, yes. In fact, we included that with our application on the property. The biggest opportunity is that addition of property that can now be developed. So we do have some plans from some automobile dealers that we've looked at, and of course, preliminary stages of some of the stores that have at least inquired so far.
Yeah, because based on what you're saying and what I looked at, then, you know, from a conceptual standpoint, you know, I saw the stuff on the car dealerships and so on and so forth. But as far as what I would say retail growth or basically just retail in general, I mean, is that the biggest, or from a foundational standpoint, is going to be the centerpiece of what we're looking for along this piece of property?
Well, retail and commercial growth certainly is one of our strong opportunities, but also preserving existing jobs, facilitating market access by the leading employers in this area. All of this will be enhanced. But for the city of Moss Point, this area is the epicenter of our economy, and we are looking for the stimulus to help us develop citywide and bring opportunities citywide from this project, which will certainly increase sales and property tax.
Okay, so one last question here that I've asked a lot of folks today. So based on the funding request that you got here, then if there is not full funding, what are we looking at as far as, this development, as far as, is it scaled down? Is it still a go, or what's the desire if full funding is if you only got partial funding? Let me put it that way.
Well, the project is a strong yes for go. We have the $3 million in restore funds that we'll put to work on this project immediately. We need this funding, but we're also pursuing other grant opportunities. This project is important and it's serious for our future. We need it, and we ask your consideration to fund it fully.
And just to add to that, the Restore Act funding is a seed funding for us. So the project, as Ms. Wright said, is a go. So we want to be able to leverage as much opportunity of grant funding as we can. But this is the Restore Act money is the seed funding for us to actually get started.
Yeah.
Sue, I don't want you to think that we've been lazy or negligent. We don't have access to all the attachments that were sent in with the application, just because of the sheer volume of the paperwork. So what we have is bare bones. So we appreciate the video. That helped us.
That was our intent, to help you visualize the miles of opportunity for Moss Point and the Gulf Coast.
Hey, Sue, this is Greg Cronin again. I am correct in that the area qualifies for new market tax credits and is the city's opportunity zone?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So twofold. I mean, it's investment for developers, but also as an opportunity zone, it addresses many of the needs of blighted areas and people of low to moderate income. So we appreciate the project on many levels.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys being here today. And before we break, I do believe we now have Mr. Leonard and Mr. Tweet here representing the city of Biloxi on the Pops Ferry Road extension project. Are they available?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. I'm finding them now, Mr. Chairman here. Mr. Biloxi, you are made a presenter now.
And if you would be willing to let me share the screen.
There you go. Now you can talk.
We'd like to share the screen if you'd let me, please.
We see your screen, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Can they see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, cool. Listen, thanks very much. I appreciate the time. I'll be brief, and I apologize for being tardy there at the beginning of the day. We were just finishing up on our hurricane damage assessment meeting, and I drug out. That took a little longer than I thought. So, but I'm glad you put me there here at the tail end. Our project is a very simple one, and you can see the site now. This is actually the first phase of a multi-phase project, the Pops Ferry extension. It's a 3/4 mile segment of a 4-lane boulevard that connects Pass Road to Highway 90 and Beach Boulevard. It includes a new Coliseum entrance and a permitted CSX railroad crossing. This is a pretty straightforward project. It's our first priority and only project submission this year in this cycle. $12 million extension of the road, of which is we're asking for an 80-20 match, which means a $9.6 million grant and $2.4 million of city money. This project will have an immediate economic impact. This is a shovel-ready project. It's designed, the land is bought, we're ready to roll. This would be a 2021 start. And on top of that, and on top of all the other things it does for us, it's a major hurricane evacuation site. The impact on the competitiveness of the region is obvious. This area in West Biloxi has been long dormant. In and around the Coliseum, with the exception of the Coliseum, there are a lot of vacant properties, both back behind there and the Pass Road and along the beach. These are properties that are beginning to show signs of development. You've obviously all have seen the advanced work on the Universal Music Group Broadwater property, which is just down the road from where this road would terminate. This project leverages a lot of state and federal funding. In fact, we've already got almost $8 million in land acquisition that's been spent on this project and on the design effort. So we're well along. It's an old project, just looking for a source to finish it. And it's going to be a big job creator. The presentation that we sent you talks about 30 construction jobs. Those would be 21 jobs and 110 permanent jobs in tourism and related business opportunities all around this the Coliseum area. On the left there you see the hotel that's planned on the front of the Coliseum, and on the right the new Universal Music Group facility that you've read so much about. This project is one that has had a lot of sponsors. You see the list. Those are people that have signed sponsorship letters for us. Again, immediate economic impact. This is not a pipe dream. This is shovel ready, ready to go. We can bid this job in 2021 and begin it, and a big major job creator for us. I'm just repeating though, we're really leveraging existing money from state and federal sources that have gotten us to this point in the project. That's it. I think I stayed within my 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate you and glad that we were able to get you. Know you guys are very busy there with the Zeta recovery work you're doing. Let me just ask if any of our advisory board members have any questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. So when we talk about the job creation here, I mean, in your application, you got that it's going to create or increase full-time employment from the project of 140 new jobs. So can you break that 140 full-time employment jobs that are going to be created once this project is complete?
Yeah, I mentioned West Biloxi. The area where this project will go and will start and terminate is essentially an economic development dead zone. It just has not developed because of the fact that Pops Ferry is a road to nowhere. Pops Ferry is a road that comes across the bridge and stops and doesn't proceed onto Highway 90 or allow people to get out of the Coliseum and go directly back across the bay. So so around the Coliseum, there are parcel after parcel of developable properties that people are just sitting on because they're just not getting the traffic count that we need to develop that area. So those 110 jobs that we talk about, that's retail and tourism. That's the hotel. That's the hotel or facilities that would be built on the front of the Coliseum property. It's all of the things that would be built back on Pass Road and behind Pass Road. I mean, so the whole area is just dying as we watch, and because we don't get the traffic count. That and there are times on this business of the evacuation route. You know, during Cruising the Coast and some other events recently, we counted more than 100 RVs in that small section of beach that would have to evacuate. And the only way they evacuate is they have to go to Beauvoir Road, around up through the light, back around to Pass Road, back around to so forth. It's just doesn't lend itself to a quick, easy evacuation. I touched on a lot of different things there. Does that answer your question about jobs?
Yeah, you did, but I'll ask you the same question that I just ask the city of Moss Point. So for that designated area that you're talking about and that land that's along that corridor, so has you or the city or whomever drawn up any conceptual designs as far as the use of that property, i.e. retail, commercial, so on and so forth, that's basically creating these jobs?
Well, I would answer you this way. In developing the design for this project, we had to not only acquire a property where the road's going to go, but we had to have discussions with all of the tenants, residents, and owners of property that are adjacent to us, and work with them on where the exits and entrances would be, the curb cuts and so forth. So we have had a lot of discussion with the developers and owners of the property about what they would do. But we don't have if you will, there's not a master plan, if you will, master plan community, if you will, for those properties, other than the fact that we're accommodating them in how we set the road up with the entrance and exits and curb cuts and so forth.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I believe that concludes all of the presenters that we had for today. We're running a little long here on our anticipated stop time. I've got 12:45. Would it be okay if everyone, we took 1 hour break and we all reconvene at 1:45? At that time, we will go through these projects. We will have our discussions, our votes, and then deal with any other subsequent business or motions from the committee. Would that be okay with everybody?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Ashley, this is Jamie. Real quick, as a reminder, we anticipated this meeting would require a lunch break and come back and convene in the afternoon. There's several participants that applied for the program that would like an opportunity during public comment period to share some information. So just go ahead and anticipate during public comment period that we'll need to hear from some additional applicants if they rejoin us.
Okay, thank you very much, Jamie. All right, we will reconvene here in this Teams software at 1:45 this afternoon. Everybody enjoy your break, and we will see you all again very soon.
Thank you.